who is your best blocker? He said, Bleier. He said, then start him. One talent. And so it was because of that I got a chance to play, and we went on to play for the remaining part of the next 6 years and won three more Super Bowls. And in 1976, as we mentioned before, Franco and I became the second set of running backs in the history of the NFL, each to gain 1,000 yards rushing. And then after 12 years, I retired. And that's kind of my story, being in the right place, right time with, with a group of all pro players, and then ultimately all Hall of Famers that set the tone for the success.
Now, Rocky, you never had a problem letting the other players get the spotlight. I mean, people think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously you're a very good football player, but when people think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they think of Terry Bradshaw, they think of Franco Harris, Mel Blount, Jack Lambert, Donnie Shell. But Rocky Bleier, they think about you, but they don't see you probably the way they see the other players. Was there ever any egoism in you or other players that some of these players are really getting all of the attention and maybe we're just on the team? Or how did the whole chemistry makeup come together?
I thought the chemistry or the makeup, of the character of people. I never felt anybody complaining about not playing or not getting enough attention,
Mm.
or it wasn't about them. So I really felt a team, it was a team group helping one another in practice as well as, on the field, and being supportive. I've always thought that was in direct relationship to Chuck Noll, and how he, as a head coach, pulled the guys together. Chuck was a very kind of quiet guy. He wasn't a rah-rah coach. He wasn't one of those guys that would pat you on the back, but you knew that he had an interest in you. He knew that when he thanked you, it was like, yes, you did a great job. And so that was, he'd never embarrass you in front of the other players. He'd never yell or scream at you. If he had something to talk to you about, it would be one-on-one, alone, and just the two of you. And so I think that helped set the tone of that team and the players that we had, and how important it is. And also in that was the leadership of players, people that reach their potential. Andy Russell was our captain in early part of those first two Super Bowls. He had been, and so he kind of set a tone in the leadership. Jack Lambert, when he came in '74, and then established a leadership role, and not afraid to tell his teammates, what they were doing wrong. And sometimes you need that within players. And so there was a great respect for the talent. There was a great respect for everybody who's also trying to make the team. And like all teams, you could get on, you would get on other people's backs if they weren't living up to what their potential was and so you can only do that if you got some cohesiveness on that team, and you got really a belief with one another on that team, and you're not afraid to tell somebody, hey, you're not playing as well as you should be playing, and so on, and that becomes very important as well within the development of a team.
Mm. So since you retired in 1980, did your life, I mean, how did you make the transition at that particular stage of your life and career towards the next phase? I mean, did you get into any other forms of the NFL as a coaching, as a commentator, or did you decide to get totally away from the NFL at that
Well,
time?
there was a couple things. There was a couple things, and I was when I had announced my retirement, or that I was going to retire, that this was going to be my last season. The local NBC television station here in Pittsburgh ultimately offered me a job to be a broadcaster. And now I had not gone to school for being a broadcaster and or any of that, but I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to be in front of the public again. I mean, we all have egos, and let's be honest with that. And so part of it is like, okay, my little ego said, hey, now here's an opportunity to do something. And it was a job that I had to learn. And so I did the news. I did I did the preseason games for the local NBC station as we covered the Steelers as a color commentator, and then I did the local news at 6 and 11, and so that was a new experience, and so it just it was fun, and it forced me to learn something about the television program. So that became, I was still attached, and with a new direction, and and a new learning process, and so that was kind of exciting for me, and then ultimately I did that for like 4 years. And in that transition as well, because of the success that we had, because of the story, I was asked to, give some speeches in high schools and some colleges and some teams around, and so that part of my experience started to develop, and so I had some of those that were going on, and learning how to speak and how to make a presentation doesn't come natural, and so you learn that, and so that's what I did for those 4 or 5 years in that transition, and then I went on to into the speaking and end of the business a little bit more, and then ultimately out of the blue I got into the construction business, and so I now own and have a construction company here in Pittsburgh over the last 20 some years, and so that keeps me busy as well.